As a college student, you are much better positioned than most professionals at building an AI startup. So we partnered with Snowflake and ByteDance on a bunch of these companies before they IPO'd. I've partnered with 12 companies. 11 of those companies have done 180-degree pivots. That software is better than debt because if the company's about to go bankrupt, they still have to pay their software vendors to go bankrupt. And I got really lucky because, Altimeter went from this $500 million hedge fund, mostly investing in travel companies like Booking Group, Expedia, United Airlines, etc., to more of a tech-focused platform. So we partnered with Snowflake and ByteDance on a bunch of these companies before they IPO'd. And that was just a really, really fun experience for 4 years. The guy who I used to work with at Altimeter, his name is Brad Gerstner. Brad is now, he's got a podcast called BG2, which he didn't before. Yeah, it's just a really fun stage because you get to basically, you partner with people. Less about the ideas and just more about people. So it's great. Yeah, that's yeah. Please.
Are you guys industry agnostic, or do you guys have a specific niche that you guys
We're generalists. The reason why we're generalists is because, at our stage, when it's 1 to 3 people with a bunch of hypotheses about the world, they pivot a lot. And so any sort of a thesis or like an industry that we focus on just wouldn't, I don't think it would work because people pivot so much.
How do you actually choose people you are going to invest in?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't have a good answer. Yeah, like that is the question. I think you throw darts at the wall, right? And no, I'm kidding. It's really hard. I think if you ask the question like what is a great entrepreneur? I think a great entrepreneur has to ultimately build a massive business. Otherwise, you're not considered a great entrepreneur. And to build a massive business, ultimately, looking back, you have to be, like the Richard Hemming thing. Like you have to work on the right thing at the right time in the right way. So what does that mean? Like you got to solve the right problem with the right product. You got to distribute it correctly, et cetera. But I think in the early days, what that looks like in an individual is almost like I imagine like the entrepreneur. They're riding a bike, and on this bike there are 2 wheels. The one wheel is their idea of the world or their hypothesis. The other wheel is reality. Like basically, what does the customer actually want? And the faster the entrepreneur can paddle this bike to go from having their idea to reality, back to changing their idea based on whatever reality is, the better. Because their idea is always wrong. Like it's either 1% wrong or like 99% wrong. That doesn't really matter. It's just about iterating and getting to the right place. So what are those attributes? Like number 1 is perhaps, this word gets tossed around a lot. It's like pace. Like if I can paddle this bike once a day and you paddle it 10 times a day, you're probably going to win. And the second thing is like, I like to think of it as like insights or just insightful people, maybe original thinkers. Because if you listen to everything your customer tells you, you're not going to build anything. But if you listen to nothing, you're also not going to build anything. So what do you listen to? What do you not listen to? There needs to be some sort of like a point of view or like an insightfulness to the entrepreneur. And then I think the third thing is just resiliency. It's like these things are so hard, especially this current moment of time. Like you look at, it's funny because like, I don't know, 10 years ago, people would say, I used to work in the public markets, right? The reason is because as a employee of a company, I got to work all day. And so I go home, I might be tired, and then I try some AI tools, but I'm never in the cutting edge. I also have all these different processes that I'm used to for my business. And those things are boring, like they're from the old world. As a college student or a college dropout, you can literally not go to classes and just play around with AI tools all day long. You're also not constrained in terms of ideas by what has been for the last like 30 years. Your ideas are like not attached to reality at all in some ways, which are good because that's how you actually have brilliant ideas sometimes. So I'd always thought that college students were well positioned. I remember, when I first joined Afore, one of the first companies that we partnered with, or I guess entrepreneurs, were these 2 18-year-old college dropouts, Serena and Charlie. They just started like their freshman year at University of Waterloo like 3 years ago. and they decided to drop out to go build this consumer agents product called Uncle GPT. Uncle GPT journey, about her half a year or year in or so, she pivoted a bunch of times. Things like building tools for PMs. And then she's like, why the fuck am I building tools for PMs? Like, I hate PMs. I know nothing about PMs. And then she's like, well, the thing I do know is data, because she used to intern at Cohere. So she started this business called DataCurve, which sells like the most cutting edge reasoning data to all the AI labs. This is like about the same time period when Mercor first started. And it was bizarre because, I remember thinking like, man, I adore Serena, but data, like why is that going to be a massive need in the future? Because eventually there might be synthetic data, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And no, like they've just been on this amazing journey. The business is like well into the 8 figures of revenue, and it's just been amazing to learn from her and like see how she's grown. So I don't know if that answered your question in terms of what we look for, because I think it's really difficult to say, but I don't think first off, there are 7 of us on the team, so people might have different points of view on this. But for me personally, I don't think it's really possible to know how big something can get in the early days in terms of the market. When I said a big business, what I meant by that is like the entrepreneur has the potential to go build something massive. And that's more of a feeling, as well as like, do their skill sets have the potential to go build something in some space given a moment of time, rather than their exact idea. Pivot within LLM AI tooling needs as like the market itself pivots. And so that's just hard to know. Or like I look at, I'm an investor in Ollama as well. And that's a crazy story because 2.5 years in, they were building something called Infra, which is like a Kubernetes management tool. And it wasn't until June, July of 2023 that they pivoted to Ollama. And then it just took off. And so it's like, as an investor, perhaps you'd be sitting there in, I don't know, 2022, being like, how big of a market is Kubernetes management? And maybe that's the right question, but it will miss the mark because ultimately they pivot into something completely different. Yeah, I don't know. So yeah.
Do you think personally that there is a way to distinguish between, let's say, a founder that's like confidently wrong, or someone that's early but on the right track?
To distinguish a founder who's confidently wrong versus.
You have like really, let's say, feel that he's not on the right track, or someone that's not, let's say, is early but on the right track.
Okay, is the question basically like someone who is wrong right now but they can figure it out versus someone who's wrong right now and can never figure it out? You can never know, right? There's also a degree to it, as in like they could be wrong, as in they can only build $1 million business and not $1 billion business. Like there are all sorts of those types of degrees as well. I don't have the superpower to know that, but that is, I guess, theoretically my job. Much more like they have a strong point of view, they've tested it, they can defend themselves, but at the same time, if you show them proof that they're wrong, they are so willing to just like drop everything at once. Versus like there are other entrepreneurs most of the time which come in and pitch, and they're thinking that they have to pitch this perfect vision, that there can't be any holes in their story or their idea or anything. And it's just like, that's actually not, there is no business like that. Like every business is, not only at the beginning stages, but forever, are just filled with like potential holes. And it's not so much like, can you answer all of them, but like, are you even aware of them? Are you willing to have a conversation about them? A simple question, is like, a founder will pitch something and probably whatever they're pitching has been tried before. There's just very, very few things that are net new in the world. And so if you ask them, why hasn't, a thing about this worked before? A lot of entrepreneurs will say like, oh, all those iterations were just dumb. Like all those founders are just idiots or whatever. And to me, that's a sign of like a lack of truth seeking, because it's almost like they're not even willing to go back into history and look at what might have happened to learn from that so that their business can be better. A great entrepreneur looks at that, and when you ask that question, they go so deep. They go, yeah, like here's like all the iterations before. Here's why they failed from a technology perspective, from like, not because the entrepreneur is dumb, but because it was too early. Here's what I think they actually did right. Here's what I'm going to steal from that. for my own thing, so I can save myself some loopholes or some time. And you know, we might be wrong about that, but like that's at least like that entrepreneur has like gone through the exercise of looking back in history. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah. Yeah. No, I did not mean me. I think it's two things probably. The first one is, well, first off, you should go talk to the founders we work with. I'm curious what they say. Probably two things. The first one is like, we talk about people. Like we spend this whole conversation talking about people. It is so fucking hard to invest off of people. You know why? It's because you meet someone and you have to have we call it, in the investing business, it's called conviction. You have to have the conviction to want to partner with someone you just met who barely has a coherent idea. And you're saying like, I'm going to give you $2 million for it. So like the courage it takes to do that is actually, I think, really, really hard to do. So how most people solve for the people thing, the people equation, is a great founder is where they went to school. It's where they worked before. It's their job title from before. Those type of things. Or how much revenue they have. And like that's just not, none of those things matter actually in terms of, I mean, maybe they're correlated, but like, I don't think those things matter when it comes to like a great founder. And so I think most firms, even if they say like we partner with founders, what they really mean is like we're looking for pedigree or we're looking for traction. Maybe that's the first thing that we're different on. The second thing that we're different on, perhaps, I hope so, is that you know, we're not specialized in anything. Our only goal is to help the founders that we work with to go build the biggest business possible. And so we're willing to just roll up our sleeves and help. So what does that mean concretely? You know, it ranges, I don't know, probably like at least 4 things, right? The first one is like customer intros. So I was talking about Retool earlier. When Retool raised their Series A, their biggest customer at the time was a business called Kiwi. That was an intro, a European business actually. That was an intro that I made. The second way is like just helping hire. For example, for LangChain, their founding engineer Jacob is an intro that I made, and one of their founding go-to-market people, David, is another intro that we made. And now David and I and his co-founder Tommy are working on their company together. The third way is genuinely just rolling up our sleeves and wanting to help. For example, for Ollama, when they launched in July of 2023, I would fly to like a bunch of developer conferences with them, like Paris and Chicago and other places, and just try to help out. I'm not a developer, but it was just really fun for me to learn and to have the privilege to be there and help out. And then the fourth way is like helping founders that we work with raise their Series A, their Series B, beyond. Like for example, Serena at DataCurve, we connect her with Mark at Chemistry, who led her Series A, and we do a bunch of that type of work as well. But I think it fundamentally is like less about how we're different and just more about who we are as people, which is like, hey, hopefully, we're just there for you. I can give you the cop-out answer, and then I can give you another answer. I don't know, again, I don't know much about energy, so I like obviously it's pretty clear that energy is just because data center, I mean, Amazon announced earnings today. They're going to spend $200 billion this year on CapEx. Google announced earnings yesterday. They're going to spend 180 or so. So right there, you got like 380 billion. That's a lot of energy needs beyond just GPUs. So what does that also mean? And you need a lot of cooling things too. So water, things to cool the GPUs, electricity too. So like, yeah, that entire stack makes sense to me. Like in terms of there being massive demands for energy, but I know nothing about energy, so I don't know how to say that. But like, I think for me, what's interesting is like more on the perhaps application layer. It's like right now, AI has effectively had 4 killer workflows. The first one is consumer. That's ChatGPT, which I'm assuming most of us use. The second one is code generation. So like that's like Cursor, it's Anthropic, it's, we've forgotten about this company, but GitHub Copilot, etc. But that's probably like, I don't know, like $5-10 billion of revenue a year right there from code gen. The third killer use case is customer support. So like Sierra, Decagon, Salesforce's own business there is like at 300 million or so. But maybe like there's like $1 billion, $1.5 billion of revenue there already. The fourth killer use case is perhaps legal. So Harvey. And then there's just like a drop off. Like there's nothing else after that. I mean, there's not nothing else, but it's like you got healthcare, you got financial services, et cetera, et cetera. But those plays are in the early innings. So I think all those things can have massive demands. On the consumer side too, it's like I think about what I use ChatGPT for. A lot of it is around healthcare related stuff as well as financial advice. And so you'll probably see like, that's already happening on the business side with like open evidence, going after doctors. But you'll probably see some consumer plays going after the end consumers as well around healthcare, around financial services. And people could say like, well, isn't that OpenAI's opportunity? And it's like, well, if you build a good enough product, maybe you have a fighting chance. I genuinely believe that because I see it. So I think all those things are great opportunities. I think it'd be just really sad. Like, everyone is now talking about AI. It would just be really, really, really sad if 5 years from now, the killer consumer use case for AI is ChatGPT. It just, I don't know. Like for some reason, that'd just be really, really sad. Like there has to be something else. There has to be something better. There has to be something more exciting, right? Like I'm not saying ChatGPT is bad. I'm just saying like, hopefully there's more.
I guess I was just wondering too, like if you, let's say you're putting your blood, sweat, and tears into this product that you believe in, there's a market for it, you know it can be monetized, and you're just going at it for a long time. What is the point, or what are the telltale signs that kind of tell you like you need to give up on this, you need to move on to the next idea or something like that?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't know. I can give you some ideas or examples. I think you should ask like, okay, if you really believe in this vision for a product, and you built it and you've shipped it, and demand has not come yet, at least not in the way you expect it to, why is that? Is that because you're going after a wrong segment of users, in which case you should pivot into that segment, or is it because the product is wrong for your existing segment, in which case you should tweak the product somehow, or it could be the demand wave just hasn't come yet. Because it's like you need, for example, you need like 25% mobile penetration before Uber would work or something like that. And so you're just waiting for mobile to get to 25% penetration, and then the wave will come. So I think it really depends on why the demand hasn't come yet. But I think you should be honest with yourself about it. It's like ultimately, if it's like, oh well, I believe in this and no one else believes in this, and I think I'm right forever, that might not be the best strategy. One market that I'm bullish on. I'm very, very bullish on a type of a transactional database, not in the sense of like a historical database, but like a marketplace, but in a database form. What I mean by that is, let's take travel as an example. Historically, let's say you wanted to go book a hotel. You would go onto google.com, you would type in hotels San Francisco, it would guide you to booking.com, you would find some hotel, you would book the hotel from booking.com, let's say. And then Booking gets paid 15% by the hotels, and then they would pay like 5 to 7% to Google. And then people will say like, well, in an agentic world, the agent will go onto Google and then go to Booking.com and find you the hotel. That makes no sense to me. It's like, why would the agent do that? The agent doesn't need to see an interface. The agent just needs information. And so I think in the future, like the agent will hit some sort of a database, like a transactional marketplace database, with all the hotel inventory, with the prices, et cetera, et cetera. And that's a really cool business because it disrupts Booking.com's 15% take rate. And so similar to like the SaaS thing earlier, it's like Booking.com probably will have a hard time transitioning out of the 15% take rate fee because they don't want to blow themselves up in the short term, I think. This is a hypothesis. And so could you go build some sort of a marketplace database where instead of for hotels to start, let's say, or instead of taking 15%, you charge the hotels 5%. And then you just partner with all the OpenAIs of the world as your distributors. And you handle all the payments, the fraud, the customer support, et cetera. That might be a thing. And who knows where that can ultimately lead you to, because you could start with hotels and just end up with all sorts of marketplace inventory. Thank you all for just pitching. I know how daunting it is. So thanks for being willing to just go for it. No, that's awesome. Thank you guys. Cool.